All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Security Observer webinar series. Each month, we promise to provide you with trends and tips that will help position you as the most trusted title company or provider when it comes to not only the transfer of money, cybersecurity, but now we're branching into even broader technology, which is the theme of this month. So, super excited.
So, last month we talked about how to prepare for your next insurance renewal. If you are not able to attend, all of our webinars are posted on our resources page at certified.com/resources.
Yep, we've had a lot of companies that have signed up and taken advantage of the new insurance endorsement that is exclusive to certified customers. So nice work to all of you that are essentially doubling not only the limits, but the scope of the protection that's offered in market. And if it's something that you're interested in, just connect with us and we can read you into how to get started down that path, a really important issue.
And for those of you who are joining for the first time, stay engaged, ask us questions along the way. We give away free swag to anybody who asks good questions during the webinar, and we'll send it to you in the days that follow.
All right, so what are we talking about? This year's theme is how to make 2020 the year that everyone protects and prospers. Today, we're super excited about covering the topic of selecting a technology partner or partners that help you improve the business. So we'll take a deeper dive on how to properly vet technology providers, and we're going to unveil the industry's first title tech-scape, right? So we're going to cover areas that in the business are influenced by technology, how to think about selecting a new solution, and it cross-cuts into all different categories that you'll see in a minute. We're going to unveil the tech-scape, and we're actually going to do kind of a dry run in two different categories, one operational and one security related.
So why are we excited about this one? A little bit of background on Tom and myself. We actually met working for a Fortune 100 company in the tech procurement space. So we were responsible for sourcing global providers of technology that were going to be implemented into this organization. Spent over 10 years sourcing tech in all segments, and we went all the way from identifying proper technology to vetting it to working with those providers, ultimately contracting and then onboarding them all. So although we sit as a technology provider today, we actually have extensive experience in vetting technology for organizations of all sizes.
So before we get started, for those of you that don't know, Certified protects the transfer of money both in and out of the escrow account. In doing so, it lowers the risk of wire fraud and social engineering, not only for you, but for everyone in the transaction. We stand behind our product and each wire with our $1 million guarantee.
Yeah, and don't forget that we are officially now integrated with Resware, RamQuest, and SoftPro Select. So we can have your team up and running with our software and integrated into any of those in less than an hour.
Yeah, no, it's super fast. If you're not using Certified and want to become the company that provides that highest level of protection for money transfers, we should connect. If you are a current customer, we're only getting started, and we've got some next level benefits that are coming your way in the next month again. So we're excited to unveil those.
All right, so let's dig in. Tom, what do you think are the most influenced areas in title by technology? Or kind of like, what buckets would you put them in as a title agent owner?
Yeah, so those of you that don't know and are new to the webinar series, not only welcome, but I'm also a large title agency owner here in Michigan, along with co-founder Certified. And I think of technology in the title industry in three primary buckets. One is more of that consumer experience, almost referral partner outbound experience phase. The other is internally of how do I manage my operations? How do I manage and create more efficient processes and procedures? How do I just frankly create more bandwidth to get more work done or do it more efficiently?
Right.
And then I think the other is just the surface area from a security perspective.
Yep.
We all have to have this new category over the last decade with the new Alta best practices that have come online, court cases, insurance requirements for coverage. So I think of it as, again, consumer, outbound facing, how does that experience look and how can we improve it? Second, I think of it in terms of like internal ops. And then third, just the attack vector landscape on how secure we are from a digital perspective.
Cool. No, that makes a lot of sense. So let's take each one of those three and let's break them down a little bit further. So what do you think are the most important factors of each?
You know, we describe our SunTitle as a communication company that happens to sell title insurance. I was reading Inman this morning, and it said, hey, can you impress, can you educate, and can you guide me? And I think that is just a really great theme that all of us should think about. So I think above anything else, I think consumers want information.
Yep.
They want to be communicated with at critical points in the transaction, and they want that done in a convenient and kind of logical way. And I think that higher state of communication comes when you can sequence communication that anticipates the needs of a consumer and puts it into their hands conveniently before they even have to reach out. Right. I think that's what we're always striving for, is that anticipatory communication. What
was that example you were talking about before about the car?
Oh, yeah. So I don't know, many of you have seen Carvana in your March crits. Yeah. We're in Grand Rapids, so I saw a billboard popped up a month ago where essentially Carvana, I could pause my binge watching on Netflix, I could order a car to my driveway, they would drop the car off on a flatbed, I could drive it for 2 weeks, and then I could send a signal back to Carvana that says, the seats don't fit, or I don't really like, you know, I'm kind of a taller guy, I don't like the way the views are on the, you know, the window glass lines, take your car back, and they will. And it's just, that's the society that we live in, is just instantaneous.
And it's grooming expectations, right? So when you have those sorts of expectations, and it's great that you started that example by you're sitting there watching Netflix, right? Because that's creating a whole nother set of expectations, and all of this is now flowing down into title and into the closing experience, and how does that going to compare not only to other title companies, but to all of these other consumer experiences that we're having as individuals?
Well, think about it, right? We talk about experiences that impress us. And in the title industry, we are simply fed by the referrals that our partners provide.
Right.
So if we can empower this experience that makes the agent look great, that makes the lender look great, that makes the lawyer look great, or the developer, that's going to come back tenfold to us, because we've created this framework where they're just simply top of mind. They're getting that referral because the process blew them away. They're not ever going to care about what title and settlement does, honestly. They're going to say that this was so quick, easy, I felt informed and empowered, and we were in and out of there in 30 minutes, and I love my new home.
So let's go from there. If you're getting 10x the referrals, what do you got to do in your internal ops?
Not only 10x the referrals, but 90x the refis, right? I'm looking at my IT manager. All right, so I think of those in, again, three buckets. We have to get resourceful, because we're going to be, the industry has been resource constrained for quite a while, because we're just not developing new talent as quickly as we need to for the industry, and every industry is constrained. So the three things from an internal perspective to think about is, one, have I taken a clinical review of my internal operations, and do I have everything kind of streamlined from my title software to the communications that are either internal or external? How can I take some of the sand out of those gears and make them run a little smoother? And the next is just organization and accessibility. Have I created an environment where I can support integrations and third parties that if I'm getting overheated, I can engage them and they can provide some lift?
Sure.
And then efficiencies, you know, things like e-recording and integrating with digital document platforms of MLSs. How can I just through integration or thinking of it a little bit different, just avoid the need for keystrokes all the time?
Sure. Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so your third bucket was security and protection.
Security and protection. So that's quickly the three that we all have to think about, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we're going to continue to take massive losses in this area until we get it right, or at least step up the game. Data network security, employee readiness and training, and then money transfer protection. Those are the three buckets that I feel the industry should be focusing on.
Great. No, I think those are awesome. All right. So now that we've broken down those areas of impact, let's help our viewers really understand how to select technology providers.
Yeah, so you're the procurement tech guy. I'm going to hand that over to you.
All right.
Let's run them through it, because this is a process that some large companies actually have. We've seen that. We've had a procurement department that, you have to go through the onboarding and that, but many of, most of the industry just doesn't. It's the owner or the ops manager. So walk them through how you think about procurement.
No, I'm happy to. And like Tom said, I mean, it really does depend on the size of your organization and how you want to field this process. But I just want to make this easy. It doesn't matter really what size. There are a couple key components that you just need to think about. So the first one is identify requirements for the technology. Simply put, what problem are you trying to solve, right? And once you know what problem you're trying to solve, you can start to think through like what features would really make that problem go away, or what sort of things there would be. But just focus right there. What's the problem I'm trying to solve? Number two is to identify your stakeholders. So simply put there, it's who will this decision or technology impact? So if we're going to add a new piece of tech, is it going to impact the CEO, or is it going to have way greater impact on operations? If it's going to have impact on operations, then we should probably pull some people from those teams to have a seat at the table to help us make that decision, to get their input, to agree, is the problem that I'm seeing in our business the same problem that you're seeing? Because if we're seeing it differently, let's align on what problem we really are trying to solve. Now, once we have the right people in the room and we've identified the problem we're trying to solve, now we want to sit down and say, what makes a winner? What will make this problem go away? So agree on your selection criteria. And I've seen things that, I've created them when we created huge matrices across all areas of a business, and we weighted how certain areas, would impact our business. And then we created these weighted averages to make a very seamless decision across a ton of different partners. You don't have to go that deep. You really don't. You can, by all means. But as long as you have sort of your set of criteria and you kind of outlined them, you said, all right, we want a great user experience. We want to make sure it reduce our costs from where they are today. We want to help eliminate, a specific procedure. You kind of come up with your top 3 to 10 things that would really make a winner for you in your organization. Now, those 3 are where you spend the bulk of your time. If you can get aligned as an organization on those 3 components, now you're ready to actually go and talk. You're ready to go and see who are the other organizations we should talk to, who can actually help us solve this problem. Call, anybody in your network, call anybody who is in the industry and say, hey, are these the right players? We're going to show you the title tech-scape today, which will help you kind of jumpstart the who to talk to, but they're not going to have all the providers on there. There's going to be others you can reach out to. And finally, you're going to select a winner. So after you go through, you have these conversations, you see a demo, all your stakeholders have gotten to vote by saying, yep, these fit all the criteria for what we had aligned on what makes a winner. Now you're going to select the winner, and you're going to move forward with that provider. And I think it should really feel like a partnership. Yeah. Sometimes we even feel, from a certified perspective, it's like, there are companies that are prepared and are ready to have the conversation. There are others that aren't sure what questions to ask or how to ask them, or even timid to ask them. We're here to be a partner, and we want to be consultative and answer your questions, and we'll tell you if we can't solve the problem, and hopefully other vendors will do the same.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think the first 3 is probably 70% of it to get it right.
Yep.
Because the owner may say, hey, I need to reduce risk in this area, but down at the operational level, you say, yeah, that's great, but that's going to cost me an extra 30 minutes of file unless we figure out some way around what you're describing. And you just have to have all aspects. I think the other thing is the pull through and the buy-in. When you do that, get that consensus all the way down to the end user employee level. But then also it's so much easier on the vendor partners to be able to speak to your needs and describe how they may or may not be able to address them. You just save so much time, both in the selection and then the implementation.
And when you come up with that criteria for what makes a winner, it could be as simple as 5 questions that you're going to ask all of the vendors the exact same way, and then at least you can sit down and you can compare those 5 answers, and it's not this, oh, well, I had this conversation and I had that conversation and this kind of felt good, but there's a lot of bias sometimes that happens with just even the last conversation that you have versus the first conversation that you have. So doing a little bit of that work beforehand will set you up for really feeling comfortable about the decision you're going to make. So one more time, you're trying to figure out first, what problem are you trying to solve? Second, who are the decision makers of technology that this technology is going to impact within your business? What makes a winner? Who should we talk to? And then select for a win-win relationship.
Love it.
All right. So, what do you say we dive into the tech-scape?
Into the tech-scape. Yep, let's do this.
All right, before we show this, we just want to emphasize that we know this is not perfect. It's tough. It was a tough task for our team to properly classify all providers. We know that a lot of technology does a lot of different things, and we tried to move them and put them in the buckets that seemed most appropriate. And it is hard, so maybe that's why no one has done this before for title. But we did our homework. We looked at Alta Registry. We reviewed integration partners with all major pieces of software. So we went out there and looked and saw who was integrating currently. And then we also talked to some leaders in the technology space.
Yeah. We went out, and I want to thank, Matt Regan of Vodi and Bill Svoboda of Close Simple and Becky Tasso of PropLogic and some others that just kind of gave us some more texture and insight, because to your point, there's a lot of companies that have a suite of products, and we tried to really narrow them into their kind of core that we identify with in the title industry. But by no means is this a full tapestry.
Yeah.
A really good start. All right, so without further ado, drum roll, let's show the title tech-scape, and we'll kind of walk through our thesis around this. All right, so as you can see, we have kind of an not all-encompassing, but we've got 17 different categories, 81 companies represented. We're certainly taking feedback on this. On the left-hand side, you can see those that are more title company centric. And what we try to do there is those that will impact more the title company organization, operations,
the internal operations that you talked about,
those types of things.
Yep.
And then on the far right, cast over to what's the consumer experience. So those that bleed in kind of the middle to the left or the right of that kind of center access line, if you can imagine it, would be those that affect both. So we try to do a good job of tiling out where they kind of trended.
And that's kind of how you had spoke to it before, right? We talked about the consumer experience, so far right. We talked about the title internal operations, more far left, and then the security, kind of some of those filter into the middle. But again, it's a little tough sometimes to get them all in the perfect place.
No, but this was fun. I mean, it was a great reminder that, and here's the other thing, there's so much more technology out there this year than there was 5 or 10 years ago.
No, I can't wait to do this again next year and see what's been added and make edits and refinement and keep doing it every chance that we get.
Yep, and I can tell you that we know a lot of the owners of these other tech platforms, and they're as passionate as what we are in solving for or creating that benefit to your organization. I mean, they truly are.
Yeah, so now that we showed the title tech-scape, we thought it would be fun to run just a little bit of a simulation to give you a real example of how you might go out and source a piece of technology for your organization. So in this one, let's pretend you're a title company owner.
Yep.
I guess we don't have to pretend that, but you're a title company owner. And I'll be head of ops organization. And let's start off with what's the problem we're trying to solve?
All right. So the challenge is we're getting heated up. The purchase market has been hot. Inventory has been low. And now we have these historically
My team needs more bandwidth.
You're coming to me saying, we got to have more bandwidth. There's a tsunami of work coming, and we just can't get it all done.
All right. So we've aligned on our problem.
Yep.
Okay. So who are our stakeholders? So the two of us, maybe we pull another individual from the escrow team.
Let's take post-closing. Let's just take the post-closing team where things can get bottlenecked to get funding out and recordings done and ultimately final policy issued, even if you're doing short form or long form. So let's take post-closing, and it is an easy one. And we want to make sure that those crazy Fridays are seamless Mondays for those teams, right?
Yep.
They can get the work out.
All right, so we got our problem. We know who our stakeholders are.
Yep.
Now, what's going to make a winner for us? What do we think is the answer? What are we hoping to solve here?
Let's just take, how could we create more time per file? What's the lowest hanging fruit of things that our people are touching, right? They're touching, it's a very manual process. I'm going to take recordings. So again, we could do 5 different categories in post-closing, but let's take recording. So on average, on manual recording, if we're not using some e-recording platform, we're spending somewhere between 15 to 25, maybe even 60 minutes if it gets kicked back from the register of deeds. So let's say it's 15 minutes a file, and we want to streamline that.
So one, we'll say turn time. right?
Time.
Can we get turn time down?
Yep.
So that's the first thing that we're trying to make, that would make a winner. That can take our turn
Knowing
time
that
down.
it's been recorded properly and there's no exceptions.
What about, I would say from my team's perspective, it needs to integrate. I wanted to make it easy for us, right?
100%.
Okay.
It needs to be seamless, and can we, the documentation that's in the system, can somehow we just repurpose that to get the recordings to the register of deeds?
All right, so we got, it needs to be integrated.
Yep.
We got to have good turn time. It has to have ease of use for my team.
Yep.
And then
Acceptability by the county. Well,
acceptability by the county,
the other
right.
thing is e-recordings. You have to make sure, does the county, what platform or platforms does the county, each county that you typically operate in, recognize? Because there's a nuance there, county by county.
And then cost. Right?
Yep.
So, I mean, just like that, obviously an example, but we came together, we have the right team in the room, we've identified what our biggest problem is, and we came up with our top 5 criteria that's going to help us make a winner. That's before we've even gone and gotten sold or spoken to or started asking questions, because all of those vendors are going to give us more information over and above that. Right? But as long as we know, okay, what are our core elements, these are the must-haves, everything else is just kind of a nice-to-have that we can add on top of that.
And as you approach those vendors, I mean, just speaking as a vendor, if you were to lob or tee up those 5 issues that said, look, these are our must-haves, I want these clearly described in 15 minutes or less to show me, and then, you know, we can move on to the nice-to-haves.
Love it.
Yep.
And so then you say, all right, so who should we evaluate? So obviously we put together the tech-scape for all of you, and we have a few in the bottom left-hand corner, e-filing. So a great place to start. Again, by no means the only options. I'm sure there's others. But that's where you go, and you say, all right, we needed a solution. Here's sort of the things we're trying to solve. Tell us how you can help us solve those.
100%. But again, what Tyler mentioned was getting the stakeholders buy-in to understand that everyone's must-haves. I want, you know, a balance between creating bandwidth, but not losing my shirt from a cost perspective. You don't want people to go on suicide watch, right, when they're overheated or the overtime goes crazy or we just can't get the work done, right? I mean, it's just, you don't want the whole department blowing up because you can't get it done and the customer's screaming. And the employee just wants a better experience, like, I'm just taking too much time in this area. So everyone's input is key.
All right, we got time for one more, but we're going to run through it. So let's say that our problem is just had a fraud.
So we just had a fraud. We had a buyer, and this unfortunately is a daily event, a daily occurrence right now. We learned that a buyer wired their funds to a fraudulent account, right? Use our industry for an example. And now we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we prevent this from happening again? And the reason why is it's bad for business. It increases my risk. I could get sued as a title agency owner. The deal doesn't close. I mean, everyone loses on this scenario.
Totally agree. And stakeholders, I would say, are the same, so we'll keep those. And then what makes a winner? So I think one thing that we hear sometimes is that people aren't so sure of this new sort of money transfer protection space that we've created. And I think that it's important that they still sit down and think, all right, what does make a winner? Well, we want to have a great user experience internally. We don't want our team's operation or workflow to be inhibited by moving from encrypted email to a new type of solution. I think the next is, what is that, you know, take buyer, for example, what is that new buyer's experience? How is that experience going to look? How are they going to, you know, be expected to either log into a portal or just access it via a secure message or whatever that case might be. But breaking down, you know, what will really make a winner for you? Again, before you ever even see the software, just have a thought internally to say, these are the things that are important. We don't want to be bogged down internally. We want our consumers to have an excellent experience, and we want additional coverage. We want to further distance ourselves from this risk. How are we going to be able to prevent this, even if, you know, there isn't 100% protection from it happening again? How are we going to be able to make sure that our business is still going to be able to stand open in the event that something were to occur?
I think that's it. You're balancing, we need protection as an industry. We have to make sure the buyers are empowered and educated and they don't fall prey to this, but ultimately it fits well within the workflow.
And who should we evaluate? So we know this area well, especially in money transfer protection. We're excited to say that ourselves certified, Closing Lock, Safe Chain, and Safe Escrow are all great options. Definitely worth having conversations with all of those providers think it's been a cool space to see grow over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And we think that anyone who's interested in trying to find a solution should take the time to speak to all of us and really make sure you get the solution to your specific problem at your company.
Yeah, 100%. And whether you choose us or you choose one of the other providers in the space, just make sure you're doing the reps and doing the legwork on this. I think we're past the time where we can rely on just email or callbacks or even secure email, because there's just so many vulnerabilities baked into that. So a tech-enabled experience with more security adds that additional distancing, especially on the buyer side.
Absolutely.
Right? And it saves time. I mean, all these platforms, you're going to save time in the operation from what you're doing right now. It's just time we're not tracking, so it's hard to quantify it on the front end.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, we know we're running a little bit over, but real quick, just want to tease out that we are releasing a new product here at Certified to further protect buyers and reduce your risk. It is also going to include a new pricing model.
Love it.
So if you're interested and you would like to learn more about what this could mean for you and your business, we would love to hear from you. As always, we will post this presentation, full webinar, to our site. We'll also be producing a blog post that'll outline all the key points that we talked about today that'll help you as you look to potentially vet and find and source a new technology provider for your business.
Yep. Great. Well, everyone, thank you for attending. We hope that you'll attend next month. As Tyler mentioned, in lieu of presenting, we really don't have a deck to share with anybody anymore, but the blog post will hit all the high points that we talked about. And I hope you guys have a great and safe, start to spring market. And if you're ever interested in learning a little bit more about what we're doing, we're here to help. We're here to walk you through this process. So until next month, take care, guys. Thank you.
Have a good one. That was fun.
That was good.